Okay, good. Dr. Shaw's here. Perfect. Got it. Okay, does somebody else want to introduce? Or I'll just start the introduction.
Lydia, go ahead.
Hello, everybody. Today, March 2nd, we are having our first Wednesday Wellness for the month of March. And with that, I want to welcome everybody. And we're going to have Dr. Heason doing his presentation. So welcome and let's do this.
Okay, hello, everyone. Also, we do have Dr. Shaw here tonight. So she's going to talk. So Dr. Shaw, I'll give my presentation, then if you don't mind, I'll then introduce you. So let me get this. And it's always a little bit of drama to try to get this to go correctly. So that should be there. That should be there. So can I see any thumbs? Can you guys see this at all?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right. So good evening and thank you guys for being here. So this is our Wednesday Wellness. And interestingly, it is on Wednesday. So it turns out this is Ash Wednesday. So those of you of this persuasion know that today is a day of fasting and abstinence. So interestingly, this starts Lent. And as I sort of joke, if Lent was so good, why don't we do it all the time? Just so you guys know, what has been, it used to be that, you had to be very, very strict. Now, what they recommend or what they allow, if you follow the actual guidelines, is that basically you can have essentially one regular meal and two small meals, but they can't equal more than two regular meals. So they're sort of doing what we're recommending, but just during the month of Lent. So what I wanted to focus on tonight was a challenge personally that has come up with me, and I'll show it to you. But basically, it's breaking through weight loss plateaus. So if we're trying to do this abs by April or amazing by May or whatever health journey you're on, the thought is that sometimes you'll hit a plateau and you may not lose very much. So I wanted to go over some of the pearls and pitfalls of how to do that. But do want to start with thanking Lydia Petro-Jones. Can everybody kind of give her a little clap? Because without her, this wouldn't be here. So Lydia, we really appreciate all that you've done. She just got back from the Lions Club International's California meeting. And so I'm very appreciative of all that she does. And then also the Lions Club International of Temecula. So without them, we couldn't do this. So I'm your host tonight. So family sports medicine, teach at the Temecula Valley Hospital's family medicine residency program. We have one of our residents here who you'll have to give her a little bit of slack. She had to put up with a week of me teaching her, but she's going to share some of her thoughts as a new physician on that. So with that, I wanted to ask you guys a question. Do you ever feel like this? And what this is fed up with how her diet is going, Charlene is going to take more serious aim at her target weight. So, a lot of us have a battle with the scale. And sometimes you hit what's called a plateau. So what is a plateau? Flat spot where you just don't move much. And usually, you kind of start down and then there's a plateau and then you need to do something to try to break through. So to share my personal journey. So I kind of bloated up during the holidays. My son came back from med school and my wife's an Italian cook. So I just said, fine, I'll just eat whatever you make, I will eat. And so I kind of bloated up. And then since we started the Wednesday Wellness, this has been my journey. So you can see about Valentine's Day, I had a plateau. And then actually my birthday was during that week too. So I didn't gain, but I didn't really lose any. And so, but then I made some changes to sort of break through that. So the big question is, how do you break through a weight loss plateau, which everyone's going to do? Because the goal is for us to get to our ideal body weight. And our ideal body weight isn't so much a weight as do you have abs? If you can get rid of your excessive, what we call adiposity around your abdomen, then whatever that is, where you can see your abdomen muscles, that's your ideal weight. Because if you have a lot of muscle, you might weigh more than somebody else. But our goal is to become lean, fit, flexible, balanced strength, good lab tests. So going back to the basics, and many of you may already know this, but I consider using the 3 C's of weight loss. And this is something I sort of come up with, and I'd be curious what Dr. Shaw's impression of it. So my 3 C's are carbs, calories, and cortisol. So the first thing is to keep your carbohydrates low, knowing that there's not any essential carbohydrates, and that carbohydrates increase insulin. Insulin is the fat storage hormone. So it's not really all calories. It's really about what's happening with your calories. I'm sorry, with your hormone, especially hormone insulin. So in short, you want to keep your carbs low. Then you do want to keep your calories low. As we joke, you could eat too much fat. There are fat dogs in Fallbrook because Fallbrook is the avocado capital of the world. And so the dogs eat a ton of fatty fatty avocados, which are good fat, but too much can be bad. And so I do encourage folks to, if you're at all interested in getting to your ideal weight, you want to be low carb, low calorie. And essentially then you just need some protein. You don't need a ton of protein, but you need some moderate protein. And then the green leafy vegetables will kind of fill you up. And then the added fats will give you taste. So this is a very simple thing. You could do this just twice a day. And the big deal with the green leafy vegetables, so the antidote to carbohydrates is fiber. So I equate how do you fill full but be low calorie, is you kind of fill up like Amazon does with their packing peanuts. You give yourself some green leafy vegetables. There's just not that many calories in it. But if you put that with good, satisfying meat or fish or chicken or eggs, then you give your body what it wants, which is to feel full but satisfied. And the protein is what's satisfied. Because if you eat, for example, like in the old days, they'd give us bread before a meal. The restaurants would give you bread to make you hungry. Certain foods make you hungrier. Like we joke about, those of us with gray hair, that you can't eat one Lay's potato chip, because as soon as you eat one Lay's potato chip, you want the whole bag. And I do have a big question that's never been answered, is how many Thin Mints Girl Scout cookies do you have to eat before they start working? Again, that's a kind of a dad joke. But anyway, there are things, and green leafy vegetables with some protein can make you feel full. And then you actually don't eat that much in terms of calories. And then the final thing that people don't really think about a lot of is keep your cortisol low. So if you're under a lot of stress, stress is the X factor, and it can really cause you to gain a lot of weight, again, because of hormones, because cortisol is a hormone. So if you're under a lot of stress, what you can do is, and I apologize about this slide, but listen to relaxing music, do some yoga, take up gardening, just laugh a lot, play with a pet, do whatever it takes to get you out of that stress. And understand that if, especially, you are on, and I have quite a few patients that work at nights, they're shift workers, that's very, very tough. And you really have to biohack your life to be able to switch that around. So some of the little things to break through a weight loss plateau, you could track your calories. And I'm a big believer that what you measure, you manage. So really focus, it doesn't have to be forever, but for the first 2 weeks, just get at one of the apps and check your calories, recalculate your calorie needs. I'm actually trying to get below 600, and I'm not saying you have to do that, but if I can keep it low, and then my body will need more calories, it'll take it from my body to burn fat. Be careful of the weekends. That's the toughest thing. So during the week, sometimes we can be very good. On the weekend, we sometimes have a cheat day, but it sometimes turns into a cheat weekend, and you can undo stuff very, very quickly. Be careful of like just a little bite of this or a little lick of that. Try to add in some extra movement, try to relax. And basically, sometimes you have to give yourself a little bit of a break. Like, for example, during Valentine's Day, it's my birthday, like, okay, I'm not going to lose, but I don't necessarily have to gain. And that's actually a positive thing. So in summary, you can't manage what you don't measure. So anybody who doesn't measure their carbs doesn't really know what they're doing. You really need to measure, and it's really important to do that. I've never seen anyone who measure their carbs be out of control, especially as a diabetic. So it sounds a little bit weird, but it's behavior, not knowledge. And you can't manage what you don't measure. But also on the flip side, things you measure tend to improve. So if you can't measure it, you probably can't manage it. But the things you measure tend to improve. So these are a critical 3 daily measurements that I recommend. And these are applications of measurements in a daily life. So probably the number one thing, and this is a bit controversial, but there's a lot that's said about it. And I think, we don't want people to become anorexic or anything like that, but that's a psychiatric disease. We're talking about, normal behavior. And what would be very, very helpful if you had one thing that'll keep you lifelong lean is weigh every day. Because what happens is you'll auto-regulate. So if you don't weigh and you just kind of close your eyes to it, it's very easy to gain 10, 20 pounds. But if you weigh, you kind of know, and then you could auto-regulate, and it does change behavior. So it is tough to weigh, but I think life begins at the end of your comfort zone. So if you want to change, that means you got to do something different than what you're doing, which is uncomfortable. So that is the end of your comfort zone. But that's really when you're being honest with yourself. And basically, you need to get over your fear of weighing yourself and just get on the scale and just do that every day. And again, what I recommend to people, just do it every day for a month and see what happens to you. So the number one rule is to weigh yourself every day. Number 2 is count your carbs. So carbohydrates are in most everything in the Western society. So think about trying to do something with your carbs, because the deal is carbs are basically non-essential. Carbs are detrimental in excess too. So everybody is different. So some people can eat like 100 grams of carbs. Some can eat less than, they have to keep it under 50. For me, I have to keep it under 5. That just turns out to be my number. So everyone is different. But what's nice is carbs are non-essential and carbs are detrimental. I got a stent in my heart when I was on I was on a vegetarian diet. That's just not the diet for me. And I'm not saying it's not the diet for you, but I think figure it out. But it is nice to know that you don't need any carbs. You do need some protein. And if you're above your ideal weight and you do have fat on your body, then learn to burn your fat. So how do you count your carbs? Well, you can start off with this free app, which looks like it's made from the Lions Club International, but it isn't, but we'll take credit for it. And it's a free carb counting app you could just download right now while I'm talking. And it has a bunch of games that you can learn about carbohydrates. So just learn about carbohydrates. After that, there's a little bit more technical ones that you can do. And there's just Google carb counting apps and you'll see a bunch of them, and try it until you find out which one you like. My pick has been this one called MyFitnessPal. So I like this because you can really get granular about a lot of the different nutrients you're getting. It also can track your water. It could track your weight. That's how I gave you that graph of what I have, as well as you can slice and dice it any number of ways. So what I like to do for patients, and I think, again, nobody cares about you as much as you do, that you need to figure out what works for you because everyone is different. But I like to ask you the question, how low can you go? It's like the limbo. So regarding carbs, figure it out. And you might even want to go carb free. That's what I do many days. So you don't need any carbs. It is a little bit kind of different, but it is something you can decide. So we sort of have a 3 stages of sort of evaluating your carbs. So if you're new to this, I encourage you to look at Tim Ferriss's slow carb. So this is where you just slow down your carbs 6 days a week. This comes from his book, The 4-Hour Body. And basically, you stay away from anything white and like grains. We call it GPS, grains, potatoes, and sugars, 6 days a week. And then once a week, you get a cheat day. So this is a slow carb diet. And for most novice folks who are just starting down this road, this is a great way because it's not a low carb, it's a slow carb. And you do get a cheat day, which you can eat anything you want, any Hostess product, whatever. So this book came out in 2007. That's when I kind of started on this road with him. And what's great is, you get a cheat day. But the problem is when you have a cheat day, you get sick on your sick day, or you get sick on your cheat day. And just like getting drunk in college, at some point you get sick of being sick and you decide, you don't really want to do this anymore because it really is, you'll lose about 20 pounds if you're pretty much over your ideal weight. But you do get a kind of a plateau because you do eat quite a bit on your cheat day. So, but it's a great way to start. It's what I recommend to most people so they can literally say goodbye to their carbs on the Sundays or whatever your cheat day is. But ultimately, you put on your big boy panties and you go low carb. And low carb is where you don't have a cheat day and you try to keep your carbs in general below 50 grams. And so that is considered LCHF, low carb healthy fats. And so this comes from the website dietdoctor.com, and they have just a ton of videos, like 500. They have 1,000 recipes, and they've really, it's the #1 low carb website in the world. And I really encourage it. They have courses, they have movies, they have just lectures. So this works out really, really well. They even have a Spanish channel. Now, if you really want to go hardcore, then you go carb free, which is another way of saying something that's not that politically correct, called the carnivore diet. So that's where you just eat essentially meat that has some fat in it and incredibly low carbohydrates, like essentially no carbohydrates. Although, in meat, there is some glycogen. So, theoretically, you might get 1 or 2 grams. But in essence, this comes from the book by this guy, Sean Baker, who I've met, and he's kind of funny. He's a surgeon out of Orange County. I think he might have moved away, like to Oregon, but basically that's an option. So for a lot of people, especially if you have a lot of inflammation or autoimmune and those sort of things, I do encourage people to dabble in this. We used to think that meat would cause cancer and the fat would cause heart attacks, and they lied. It's really the carbs. So it's something to think about. I'm not saying to jump into it, but it is funny to think about. And then the last thing, so it's really about your carbs. It's really about your, checking your weight. But at some level, you do have to look at the calories. And so it would be really nice to be able to cut your calories. So the challenge is how do you cut your calories? So you could be on a low fat diet, which is high carbs, but the problem is carbs burn dirty. So carbohydrates are like coal or any sort of like dirty fuel. And interestingly, if you are on a low fat diet, so that means you're eating a lot of carbs, which is what like America's Biggest Loser recommended. What happens, unfortunately, when you eat any carbs, you block the metabolism or the burning of your own fat. So your body can't burn fat. So its only thing it can do is lower the metabolism. And that's why you've never seen anything work when people on low fat diets. We've been doing that for 50 years. And eat less, exercise more hasn't worked in 50 years because we're eating low fat, high carb. And the only thing your body could do, this is what happened with America's Biggest Loser. They would lose all their weight in 6 months. We've all seen the show. Jillian Michaels yells at them. They do 6 hypocaloric, low fat meals, which is carbs. So they can't burn their fat. All they can do is lower the metabolism because of just, her yelling at them. They get down to their ideal weight, or pretty low in 6 months, but you've never seen a reunion show. You've never seen them keep their weight off long-term because they can't. Because if you eat one almond, you'll start to gain weight because your metabolism is so low that if you just go off it at all, you'll gain your weight back. So my recommendation, looking at the science, is learn to burn fat. And interestingly, the best way to burn fat is to fast, just like it's Ash Wednesday. We sort of tell people not to eat very much, and you can do fasting. And interestingly, like we saw in this one, if you eat low fat, your metabolism goes down. What happens when you eat low carb, and the ultimate low carb is fasting, and the red line is your metabolism, it actually goes up. So despite what they said that, oh, you have to eat small frequent meals to keep your metabolism up, it actually does the opposite. But if you fast, your body actually increases. The middle line shows an increase in the resting energy expenditure. So fasting increases your metabolism. Again, who knew? But that's what's exciting about it. So your body is not that foolish that it's going to lower its metabolism when you fast, because in the old days, you had to go out and get some game. So it wants you to bump up your metabolism so you can get off your bottom, go find something to eat so that you can survive. So in summary, I do recommend you consider weighing every day, count your carbs every day, count your calories every day. And so consider doing that at least until the next meeting, so the next 2 weeks, and let's see how you do. Now, the nice thing about this is that there are benefits to this, because with our whole program of Nudge Away Diabetes, we're frankly trying to nudge away all the chronic diseases. So all the chronic diseases, I mean, this is what I hate to use the phrase, but if you're young enough, you kind of use this phrase. We suck at chronic diseases in the United States. Heart disease, cancer, stroke, diabetes, Alzheimer's, chronic pain. These are all fueled by carbohydrates, and they're non-essential. Now, what you hear in the news is about all the expensive rare diseases and genetic procedures, but the bulk of our healthcare dollars, in fact, diabetes itself is 1/4 of the healthcare dollars. And so to me, when you go down this lifestyle medicine to nudge away diabetes, you're actually nudging away all of these. Alzheimer's is considered type 3 diabetes. And I know you would think that I'd make my living off my good looks, but no, that's not true. I make it off my brains. And so one of the big reasons I'm on this is to improve my brain function, because I work with super smart people like Dr. Shah. So in summary, my opinion is that your health is your wealth. I mean, anybody who has an Apple Watch or anything Apple, Steve Jobs passed away on a vegetarian diet. And, the big deal with him, he had more money than God, that really the health is your wealth. So with that, I'll start to summarize and have Dr. Shah talk. But I did want to thank, the Alliance for giving us this platform. And I do think, just like there's Alcoholics Anonymous, I think we're what we call Carboholics Anonymous, but you're not anonymous because I see all your names. So anyway, it doesn't quite work, but I just thought I would throw it out there. But at the very end, the goal is that, we sort of develop a low carb zone for all the things that we do. And then with that, I'll take any questions.
Great presentation, Dr. Heason. Appreciate what you had put in here.
Okay. Thank you, Joni. Any questions? Anyone have any? Otherwise, I can throw it to Dr. Shah.
I have a quick question, doctor.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm wondering what your ideal weight is, because you've lost a little bit of weight. What is your ideal weight?
Oh, for me? Well, I have a couple. So the number one is my driver's license weight, because if I get pulled over and I don't weigh that, I could get arrested for lying. Just joking. So I've always tried to get down to but I think for me, I'm 5'11". And again, it depends on how much is muscle. But in general, I'm trying to get down to like 175. But when I used to run marathons, I was like 169. And again, it doesn't really matter kind of what I weigh. Is like, have I gotten rid of all my adiposity on my abdomen? Or especially for me, I have what I call, people call love handles, I call hate handles. So that's my whole fun. It's just like to play around, figure out like what would be my ideal weight. But you really want to see lower abs when you're at your ideal weight. And again, how you feel, how your labs are, but the combination. So I'm real big on, it's Ted Naiman's program where you do the triple failure weight training. So I've been doing that with cardio, Pilates, and then with the nutrition. So it's just kind of a nice hobby. Frankly, I'm just doing it to irritate my brother. I'm going to Hawaii in April. I just want to irritate my brother.
I got a question,
Yes,
Dr.
sir.
Heiss. Is Alzheimer the final stage of diabetes 2, or
Oh,
what is the-
Alzheimer's? Yeah.
Alzheimer.
No, the problem with diabetes is, my opinion is that it's a gateway disease, just like marijuana is a gateway drug. So it's the number one cause of blindness, number one cause of kidney failure, number one cause of non-traumatic amputation. Most diabetics die of cancer and heart disease, but it also is one of the major causes for Alzheimer's. And when you go low carb, you do get what we call keto clarity of the brain. And there is a website called the Charlie Foundation. And there's actually a very good book called The End of Alzheimer's, which is out of UCLA by Dale Bredesen. And that also advocates a low carbohydrate diet. So I think, to answer your question, I think it is one of the end stages of diabetes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
He's on.
Yes. Hello, hello. Who's
If
that?
you were a 5'11" woman, what would your ideal weight be?
I don't care. Do you have abs or not? If you have dough around the middle, you could do better, because it all depends on how much muscle you have. So I had chargers who weighed a lot, but they had very low percent body fat. My whole deal is, if you have abs, if you can see your abdominal muscles, then you're good. If you don't, then you want to mess around. But the big deal is not just to lose weight. You want to recompose. In some ways, some people don't lose weight, but they recompose. They burn fat, build muscle. So my whole deal is say no to dough and try to get lean and fit. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Yes, sir. No to dough. Thank you.
Okay. So Dr. Shaw, do you want to jump in? And we can let you share if you want to.
Get my chance. Hey, Dr. Hezon, I had a question if you get a second.
Okay.
I've been following your advice, sticking to under 20 net carbs a day and eating around 14 to 1600 calories. I'm a male weighing about 218 now, and I've been doing it for a month, and I've lost about 14 pounds.
Wow.
So it
Congratulations.
seems to be working for me. I don't have the food cravings I've had for the last 50 years. So it's kind of a new experience for me. But I guess my question is I know obviously the calorie deficit is helping me lose weight, but I feel like I'm losing muscle mass a little bit, especially my biceps, I've noticed. And I'm trying to add weightlifting and body weight exercises to prevent that. But is it too low of a calorie target?
No, I mean, again, how tall are you and all that?
I'm 5'9" and
Okay.
218.
218, yeah.
So I got too much dough.
Yeah, sorry. There's a reason I have very few friends. So no, the big deal is I would start with the protein, and you want to make sure you're getting, probably for someone like you, like 75 grams of protein. Because you don't want to have too much protein, but that's somewhere between 75 and 100. And then I do like, again, if you're at all interested in this, I would get the book by his name is Ted Naiman, and the book is called The PE Diet. And he's been very, very good about showing you what we call body weight calisthenics every day. So he in short, his program is pretty simple. It's a push-pull sprint program. So for example, you do push-ups 3 sets to failure each time. Nothing succeeds like failure, he says. So you really, sort of push yourself. Again, you're on the younger side, right? How old are you? Kind of
50.
Okay. So, make sure your heart's okay and all that good stuff. But yeah, no, it is something that you can lose a little bit of muscle, but it's not significant if you do these things, and you're in it for the long run. And it is tough for your body to know, because you're trying to lose weight and then build up. And so just take the long version where you just do what you're doing. Understand that you don't really need, especially if you're on a low carbohydrate type diet, you really don't need that many calories at all. Like you could easily go below 1,000, because your body will pull it then from your body. And then, but I would get, and his analogy is like, what's the best way to get like calluses on your hand from digging. Well, you probably dig every day, but you dig a little bit, you don't hurt yourself, you recover and you do it again. So he's big on weight training every day and in a push-pull routine so you don't get out of balance. And then make sure you get your protein in, and then see how that works. And then the biggest thing is sleep is the X factor, because if you get good sleep, that's when your testosterone's made, and that's when you develop your muscles. So hopefully that'll help. But I'd be curious what you think about his program.
So you said that book was the PE diet?
Yeah,
Paul
P
Edward?
for protein to energy diet. And it's
Okay.
the greatest book because first off, it is a paperback. I know a lot of you don't like paper, but it literally is a coffee table book. Like it's mostly pictures. And he's a family doctor. I really respect him. And he also has some YouTubes and stuff you can watch. But if you really want to recompose your body, and I would Google him, so Ted Naiman, the PE diet, and he really walks his talk, and he combined with a fitness model that is only like super lean, like a 5% body fat. But in general, for most guys, if you can get down to 15, that'd be great percent body fat. And for the women, 20% body fat. So you can Google that and see what that looks like. So I'm not really big on having to get like DEXA scans and this and that. You just kind of go with how you're looking and are you lean and fit? Because if you are, then you're right. If you're not at your ideal weight, frankly, some people say then you have a bad diet and you have to figure it out because you get your good abs in the kitchen, not in the weight room. And so with
Okay.
that, Dr. Shaw, can you share?
you.
Oh, you're welcome. So this is Payal Shah. Are you around? Sorry, I got to find you.
Right
and-
here.
Okay, hi. Do you have any slides or you just want to talk?
I don't have slides.
Okay.
I can definitely share a little.
Yeah, just explain who you are and how we know each other, all that kind of things.
Sure. So I'm one of the first year residents at Temecula Valley Hospital. I have the privilege of being able to work with Dr. Hizan and pestering him with questions and learning from him, which I appreciate. I am one of the family medicine residents, so I get to do inpatient and outpatient during my residency time. And then I, in the end, do want to do outpatient practice. It would be a dream to be able to work like Dr. Hizan does. I think it's great that you guys have this platform set up. I appreciate that Dr. Hizan and everyone that helps set it up, it exists. I think that education and community aspect is very important. I'm still in my learning phases, but what I would say so far, what I've learned from patients is that kind of like Dr. Hizan's been reiterating, I think like the self-awareness, kind of knowing what you need and how to take care of yourself really does help with weight and all the goals you may have in maintaining your diabetes, whether that's maintaining your sleep or the little things. Sometimes a lot of patients will tell me, oh, when I go to the grocery store, I have a list already written out so that I am not tempted to get anything else. They kind of hack their own system essentially. If they know they're tempted to get sugars or sodas, they'll have everything written out, go straight to grocery store, get what they need, come out. If they know that they're going to go to restaurants with friends or family, they already know what they're going to order. Instead of having moments of hesitation and temptation and then regretting it later on. Although we are all human, so we do make mistakes. But a lot of them have built that self-awareness in to see what they need to do, which is what I've noticed has helped patients partly as well with the journey. Beyond that, a lot of what Dr. Hizan's talking about, some of it's I'm still learning as well with the low carb and carbs actually not being that essential. I don't think it gets promoted enough. So that's still something I'm learning about as well. So I'm right there with you guys in that journey.
Dr. Shaw, maybe mention how much nutrition and lifestyle medicine you learn in your training.
That is a very good question. We actually don't learn that much, and just from colleagues at other schools that have come from max, maybe they learn is 15 to 16 hours. So a lot of the times I'm sure you guys hear from other physicians, if you've seen any other doctors besides Dr. Hizan, a lot of folks will just say, change your diet and lifestyle, maybe give you 1 or 2 tips, and then that's usually where it ends. And that's very hard, I'm sure. Doesn't really give guidance or any understanding of how difficult it is to change the day-to-day habits and how to actually work it. I know one of the things that I enjoy that Dr. Hizan talks about is when you're starting to change to a lower carb diet is to focus on hydrating more, just to help with the symptoms of different dietary changes. It's not a simple from this to that kind of change.
Great. All right. Well, thank you very much, Dr. Shah. Can you guys give her a round of applause because she's first time and stuff. But this is part of the strategy of what's called patient engagement. That's what we're trying to do, is trying to, all of us getting better. So, so Dr. Shah is interested in what we're doing, and we're very excited. She'll be with us for the next 2.5 years. So hopefully this won't be the last time she's on, but
All right.
we're trying to introduce the new physicians to this concept, which is not necessarily something that's mainstream quote yet, but it's really picking up a lot of steam. And she's actually interested in doing some of the research with us. So that's the deal that's going to change the doctors. As we joke, I jokingly say that nurses run the universe and nurses like chocolates. Well, hopefully it's dark chocolate, but then doctors are important. Doctors like data. So we need to, a lot of the, in fact, maybe Dr. Shah, could you explain a little bit about the patient you're going to do that case report on? Do you remember the numbers?
Sure. I do remember the rough numbers, actually. So this was one of the cases that Dr. Hizan was sharing with me about when I was able to work with him last week. He was telling me about a patient, I think in his mid 40s or 50s,
Yeah,
that had come
early
in.
40s.
Early 40s, he had come in. A1C, I think, started off at 14.
And the normal is under 6.
Right. So he was definitely way past normal. Very concerning of an A1C of 14. When a patient comes in like that, Dr. Hizan had started him on oral medications by mouth. I think metformin and one other medication, and then discussed diet and lifestyle changes. And this patient worked really, really hard for a good 5-6 months, and was able to bring his A1C down to about 5.7, I believe,
Wow.
6 months. So he worked really hard on changing diet, low carb diet, and was able to actually maintain and bring his A1C down to 5.7.
Yeah, so she's going to write that up, and we'll present it at a national meeting. Interestingly, he just had a newborn and sort of dedicated his life, sort of changing because he wanted to be there for his newborn baby. So I think those are the kinds of inspiring things. If someone's interested, we're here for them. And now he's essentially off all his meds. So it's very, very exciting with what we're doing with the Lions. But what we need is folks like Dr. Shah to organize that, to be presented so other doctors can kind of appreciate, how this works. So thank you, Dr. Shah. Now, Lydia, you can open it up to whichever way you guys want to go.
Yes, would be nice to have some questions right now. Something that always gets in my mind is I'm trying to be very diligent, counting every and each carb that I put in my mouth, but I know that I need green, also leafy greens in my diet, and half a cup of maybe cooked spinach has so much. And the question is, and each one of us is different because the levels that we need might be different for me than for you. I know that I need to have at least twice a day some greeny leaf to get my fiber going. So I would never be able to say that I'm 0 carbs, but those greeny leaves adds up. And I remember too, I had a conversation with Dr. Hizan about my gummy vitamins, because I didn't realize that the gummy vitamins, they have carbs too. So by the time that you end up on a day with the gummies vitamins or the gummy nails and hair, I already was 10 carb just only in gummies. So it was very, very interesting. So when you count that, it's a good awareness to see, you know, what does have carbs and what it doesn't have carbs. So that is for me. So I would like to open and see what is interesting for you and what you find out about carbs and how it's working for you. Okay. Go ahead.
I have a unrelated question though. Can I? This
Yeah,
is
go ahead.
Rocky. Why is it that they don't teach at the medical school nutrition? We hear a lot of time, and it appears that it's coming, and it's been so long, and still they don't get it. Whoever make the plan for the education of the future doctors,
I don't know,
if there is
Dr.
an
Shaw.
answer.
Yeah, Dr. Shaw, you want to maybe try to take a stab at that, and then I'll take a stab after you do that.
I think a lot of it's been years of the same organization of how they teach material, but part of it's also, so it's for me in medical school, my first 2 years were all academics, and the second 2 years were clinicals where you're going in and working with residents, working with doctors in person. I think the way they structured it for me, at least, is they didn't really have time to add nutrition. A lot of the textbook stuff that they teach you truthfully ends up not being as useful until you end up going to clinicals and learning from clinicals there. But oftentimes structurally, they'll do a month of each body system. So they focus more on the body system, medications, pharmacology, and don't really have time for nutrition, nor do they emphasize it. I don't think it gets promoted enough how important it is. I think it's a very subset of physicians right now that focus on lifestyle medicine. And it's not promoted as a whole in medical schools. I don't know what Dr. Yuzan thinks there for
Yeah,
why.
no, that's very good. So I sort of, turn around. It's called medical school. It's not called nutritional school. So they really, we take organ physiology and pharmacology, and Dr. Shaw has had to suffer through all those. So they're really looking at the medicines. Truth be told, it's very hard to change people's behavior. So that's the other side of it. But also there are a lot of different agendas. The food pyramid was made by the agricultural, that's who started that. And way back when they did the food pyramid, agriculture is the one who did the pyramid. Well, they want to sell agriculture. So and then you have to understand there's a lot of money in pharmacology. So there's medicines that that are very, very lucrative, and they fund a lot of the projects. So I think the deal is that we sort of thought, and there's a guy by the name of Ansel Keys, who I can kind of show you some of this. He was very powerful. He got it started so that we as physicians follow guidelines, and the guidelines, unfortunately, are made by a lot of folks who are actually being subsidized by some of the other sort of things. Like, they get money from sugar, they get money from this or that. So what's really, really nice, though, is because of the advent of the internet, the truth is starting to come out. I mean, just look around, have you not seen who's coming in your clinic? Everyone is worse off, except these people that do sort of these sorts of things. So what I'm very excited about, and I think what's going to happen in the future, is the whole era of personalized medicine. It's not what the guidelines, it's not saying this is what every person should do. It's like, no, every person is different. We should, especially now with the technology, and if we build it, the teamwork, it could do it that way. So, but it's not an easy thing to promote because if everyone's different, then what do you follow? So they also, at the end of the day, and Dr. Shaw will tell you, you only study what you're getting tested on. And so they don't test about the nutrition. And so they just, don't really give it that much. And so and most people, truth be told, don't have that much success because they don't have like a Nudge Away diabetes program. They don't have this sort of support group. And so they haven't had that. But what's really, really exciting now, Rocky, is that we're going to begin, we get paid now for performance. It's called P for P, pay for performance. And we actually now get bonuses if our diabetics are at control or if we nudge away chronic diseases. So I'm very excited for the future, but that's why I want to get somebody like Dr. Shah involved early in her career so that she'll be open to these kinds of changes. But getting back to your original question, there's a lot of factors and a lot of it is sort of political and economic.
So when will Dr. Shah get her first bonus?
When she publishes her paper on it.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody have any sort of success stories?
What is Erlinda? Your story.
I used to be like 168 pounds. Now I am 142.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes.
And how did you do that?
Low carb, exercise.
Oh,
Now I
good.
start gaining again.
Yeah.
But I won't be on that scale anymore.
Okay.
Very good.
Well, good. Very good.
I've
Any?
been diabetic since 1983.
Wow.
I'm still alive. Thank you.
Well, good. That's great.
Mhm.
What were some of the things that you did that worked for you?
Exercise. I walk almost every day for 30 minutes around our block, and then low carb and less stress.
Good, good. So the walking does decrease your stress, but do you have a number in terms of how your carbohydrates that you keep yourself at?
I don't count my carb, but I know the amount of carb that I'm taking every day. So I drink plenty of water also. And then now I don't eat 1 pound of grapes. I just eat like 10 to 15 pieces of grapes, those things.
Are you counting your carbs?
No, I just, I know how many carbs I'm eating every day. So I think that's the reason why I lose weight.
Good.
But I've been on insulin and been taking insulin like, I think 7 years, the NPH. 14 units in the morning and 12 units in the evening.
And has your amount of insulin gone down since you lost your weight?
Maybe. So, and then this diabetic awareness that we watch, that helps also.
Good. Hey,
Yeah.
that's
Thank
good.
you,
Very
Dr.
good.
Lisa and Lydia and everybody.
Dr. Rocky.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
If I may, Mr. Martin, can I call on you to maybe tell us your journey?
He's exercising.
Mm.
You're on mute, Drew. You are on mute. I think
How's
he
that?
doesn't. There you
There
go.
you go.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, thank you for allowing me to come to this. It's very interesting. I've been with Dr. Hezon about probably about a year and a half, close to 2 years. I just experienced a heart attack 4 weeks ago.
Oh,
Yeah, so he invited me to this. It's very interesting. Some of my challenges are more stress related. I'm not overweight. Working with Dr. Hezon, I went from probably about maybe 190, and now I'm right at 180. And I think that's my baseline. I'm 6'2", about 180 pounds. So it hasn't been a weight thing. If anything, for me, it's eating enough to have energy. Okay, during the day, I play a lot of golf. So on the golf course, I run out of energy. Just about halfway through, I run out of energy. So I'm kind of searching for a way, what can I eat on the golf course that helps me pick up that energy? Okay, because I tend to burn a lot. So that's one of the things for me. And one of the questions I had, Dr. Hezon, you mentioned cortisol, the hormone that our body secretes, and that's stress related. I'm wondering, is there a test for that, or is there a way we
Yeah.
can monitor that?
Yeah, so what you can do is do a morning cortisol level. So your cortisol starts to go up at like 4 a.m. if say you wake up at 6 or 7. And it should start to go up to get you ready for the day, but it shouldn't spike. But for a lot of people with adrenal fatigue and other things, their cortisol will be high. So if you're interested, you can get a cortisol level early in the morning, and that can tell you where you're at on your cortisol.
And how do I get that? Is that something
It's just a blood test. Just if you're,
Oh.
since you're with me, just if you can remind me, we can order that for you.
Okay, it's a blood test then. So you do it, say,
Yeah,
Every-
it has to be done in the morning because that's where we're going to reference it to.
okay.
But that's a good thing. You can, do that and then do all the different relaxation techniques that, you want to do and then kind of remeasure it and see if it's gone down.
Yeah. And one of the other thing, I have a pretty good scale that gives me a lot of different metrics. I guess they're all it's weight based, but the body fat, and I'm wondering, you mentioned 15%. I'm down at about 12%. So that may be the reason I'm just running out of energy during the day.
Right. And so that's where you can, again, what you measure, and then we can adjust. And there's actually ways that, for example, you could be, quote, fat burning and then carb up for what you're doing. So you might want to look into a supplement that I like called UCAN Super Starch. So it's a low glycemic, actually carbohydrate, that if you're fat burning, you can take it. For example, when I used to do spin before COVID in a class, and if I wanted to win the class, so I was always like kind of in the top 5. Miss Cobb will know that her brother and I used to ride bikes, but her brother's much better than me. But I'm kind of the top 5. But if I wanted to win it, I would also use carbs, and so it's called UCAN Super Starch. And so that might be a supplement. If you try the basic stuff that's not working, that's when you, quote, supplement, and then you'll have double burning. And there's a lot of people, especially the people that do ultra endurance runs, like 100-mile races, they'll do that an hour before they want to finish. So in the old days, we ran marathons and hit the wall because we were carb based and couldn't go over to fat metabolism. But if you don't get greedy, you could be fat burning, almost like hot coals. And then this stuff, UCAN Super Starch, is like lighter fluid. You like squirt it on the fire. Not that anyone's ever done that here. And it'll like kind of give you that extra burst so you can finish your round.
Okay.
So let me know what you think about that.
Okay. Yeah, maybe I'll pick some of that
'Cause
up.
if you don't use that and you just eat carbs like bananas and stuff like that, you'll actually get out of fat burning. So the goal is to give you some carbs, but not so much that you get out of fat burning. And we can talk about that. And you might even want to measure, like you can get what would be really nice for you, and we have some samples if you want to, put on a 24-hour glucose monitor. So while you're playing, you see what your blood sugar is doing, and you start to supplement before your blood sugar is too low. And same with your ketone level. So again, what you measure, you can manage, but that would be very interesting to see what your blood sugar does when you golf.
Yeah, and that's where my concern was, because I did feel like I was just getting a little lightheaded. And if I'd go down to pick up a ball or mark my ball, I'd get lightheaded. And I said, okay, someone else has got to go. I got to get my, my senses about.
But what Dr. Shaw was talking about, it also could be hydration as well as your electrolytes.
Okay. Yeah, I do. I try to drink as much water as I can out there. And electrolytes, I take the little packet that you buy at Costco, and I don't drink it all, but I drink one of those probably per day. So I mix it in very light.
Yeah, well, that's where you can check your blood. But just so you know, I put salt in my coffee. So salt is the good white powder. Your body can get rid of salt. It can't make it. So if you're on a high carb diet, you shouldn't have a lot of salt. But if you're on a low carb diet, literally, as long as you have good kidneys and liver, or I'm sorry, good kidneys and heart, you can't take too much salt because you'll get diarrhea before you overdose on it. So those are some things, usually frequent fluids, frequent low dose carbohydrates, and electrolytes. Those are the three things that'll give you a lot of energy.
Okay.
Dr. Hizon, I know that we only have a few more minutes here, but I wanted to ask, is there any other hormone beside cortisol that, especially in women, that can influence in the weight gain or weight or not letting you lose the weight?
Well, yeah, so the whole idea of polycystic ovaries and all that, so estrogen, having sort of abnormal estrogen, progesterone, and actually having too low of testosterone. So I highly recommend for women to get those hormones checked and optimize them.
Okay.
That changes everything. Dr. Cobb or Ms. Cobb, did you have a question or your hand up? Sorry.
Hopefully this year will be Dr. Cobb. I wanted to answer Lydia's question. So I found a great little handout on the internet that gives you low carb fruits and vegetables. So for your leafy greens, Endive for 1 cup is 0.1 gram of carbs. So beet greens are 2, arugula is 0.4, butter lettuce is 0.5, romaine and is
For 1 cup, you said?
for 1 cup. Yeah, so it's all pretty low. So cabbage is 3.
Yeah.
So one thing I like to
Spinach
do
is more.
with cabbage, for those of you that don't know, I'm getting a doctorate in health science and clinical nutrition. So I am the person that's taken a bunch of nutrition classes. But one thing you can do with cabbage is get a pot of water and blanch it, and then you can use it as a wrapper for a spring roll. So you can put your grilled chicken, maybe some coconut aminos, because those are no carbs, and enjoy a nice little spring roll. But that's kind of what I do with my leafy greens. Endive is good to blend in a smoothie if you want to do that with almond milk. So I just wanted to answer your question because that was a really good one.
idea,
And yeah, a lot of fun stuff you can do with leafy greens. And then if you saute spinach in olive oil, like 4 cups
garlic.
becomes a half a cup. So for people that are like, I can't eat that much spinach, when you saute it, it'll cook down.
Yeah.
So I hope that helps you guys with some ideas.
Yeah. I do my omelette and I'd love to put some spinach in there. And I don't want to just take the cheese, but I put a little bit, sprinkles Parmesan cheese on the top once it's done. But yeah, it's very nice to put spinach and some bell peppers and things like that to do the omelette. And probably 1 serving, supposed to be enough. About fiber, they said that if you are, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, if you have less than 15 grams a day, you are on a low fiber. But anything anything about 15 gram, then you are getting good. So I'm trying to get those 15 grams, and it gets a challenge between the fiber and the carbs and the calories,
Right. Well, and fiber can be, can constipate you or can make things move along. So part of with fiber is also hydration. So if you find yourself a little stuck, a glass of warm water with a little bit of sea salt or the salted coffee can help. So yeah, you're always playing with that. And then for those that do have an elimination issue, it's when you change your diet, that's common. And so sometimes your body will go through waves of constipation to diarrhea, and you're like, what is going on? It's just your body's figuring out the dynamics it needs to calculate to have a regular bowel movement. So give it a week, and if it doesn't balance itself out, then talk to your doctor about it.
Okay. All right. Anybody has any burning questions before we close? Okay, then thank you very much. And we'll see you. Our next is going to be on the 16th. next Wednesday, the 16th at 7 p.m.
All right, thank
Okay.
you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank
Dr.
you.
Shaw.
Thank
Thank
you.
guys.
Thank you. So